Hey, everybody, this is John. With me is Matt tonight.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
So, on today's episode, okay, we're going to be doing part 2 of Superfight, which is going to be a lovely, hopefully, round that we're going to be going against each other, basically taking turns on who would we think would win in a fight. So, having a person and having a weakness or multiple weaknesses or powers, depending on what you get, right? So, on top of that, we're also going to be talking about Marvel Phase 2, right? So, that's going to be an important topic because most of this is going to be, again, part of our series that we're doing. We're going to be doing a 5-part series, possibly a 6, depending on if we need to, but I highly doubt it. But when it comes down to our podcast, right? So anyone who's new to this podcast, it's again two geeks like to talk about geek culture itself, and we also like to do ridiculous things. So like playing, different games like we're doing right now with Super Fight. So keep in mind, what we say on here. It can sound a little ridiculous at times, but you know what? Again, we're passionate about what we do, right? Because with our 45 listeners clearly right now, or hopefully more, maybe at some point, because we would want to have a bigger following than what we have. So when it comes down to today, I'm gonna let Matt do his little portion because I think this is gonna be a really good one. So go ahead, Matt.
All right, for the 45 listeners listening at home and the less than 1% in Ireland, let's get geeky! All right, John, so we got Super Fight round 2, and hopefully this one's a little bit more interesting than having a psychic and a disembodied head.
And we already clearly know who won that round. Your boy John over here, because clearly, a psychic that had kung fu powers, and yes, who was afraid of water versus a discombobulated head with vertigo and who basically had stickiness all over his body. So again, you guys, hopefully the listeners can let us know who actually won that round. But I'm going to say Geek of the Week was me. But it's up to debate. But anyways, so Matt, I'm going to start.
So John's going to pick 3 cards from the deck, and these are the white cards that will determine who our characters are, and he's going to pick them face down, so we don't know who we're picking right at the, right out of the gate.
So go ahead, Matt. I pick my 3. You pick your 3. No cheating now. He's like, yeah, I want that winner. Like, I just want to win one time. I'm like, well, I guess we'll find out with our random picks. So here we go.
All right.
I'm going to choose right in the middle. Here we go. Ooh. I got the Crow.
The Crow. Oh, boy.
I got the Crow, baby.
All right. So I got 1, 2, or 3 here. I'm going to go with number 3. I have a cheetah. And not like a Boston
Cheetah?
Cheetah, like an animal cheetah.
Oh, wait. Why did you say Boston? Like, that was a very specific thing you just said there.
Because, people have that weird accent. Like, they don't say R's, so they go...
Oh, cheetah?
Yeah, cheetah.
Yeah, you're a cheetah.
You're a cheetah.
And, oh, okay.
But, so it's the animal, the cheetah.
I thought you were calling, Boston fans cheetahs. That's what I thought you said, so you better be careful now.
Well...
No, don't. I'm telling you right now, whoever's listening, I really hope you get mad for that. His number is... No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to give him his phone number. All right, so
we have the Crow versus a cheetah.
Right, so now Matt and I are going to pick 3 black cards as well. So let's see. All right.
So John's going to pick his.
I'm going to pick... Oh, I already got my 3. Perfect.
All right, look at that. Now I'm going to pick mine.
Oh, I don't know what it is. I'm just kidding. I don't see it.
We have a card down, folks. Card down.
I don't know what it is. Oh, just kidding. I did, but I barely got to take a chance to look at it.
All right, so we each got 3 black cards. Now, these could be powers or weaknesses. We have no idea, but we're going to pick one. So, John, go ahead. Pick a card. 1, 2, or 3.
I'm going to choose 3. I'm a little nervous right now.
Oh, boy.
So I'm wearing an impenetrable tuxedo.
An impenetrable tuxedo.
That's why I laughed because I don't really quite get what it would do. So I mean, like, is it like bulletproof? Is it?
Well, it's impenetrable.
I mean, I get it, but like, it can mean so many different things though. So I don't know. We're gonna find out. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick right in the middle. Gotta be kidding me.
Okay, what is it? Because now
I have like the worst
you have the worst luck.
luck with this game so far.
Please, then I want to know what is it? Because you have what is it? A cheetah and
Like, I don't know how this could get any worse for me.
you got to tell me now because this is really
So I apparently have a cheetah who is made of paper.
paper. Oh, this is gonna be great. Look at it. I got the crow wearing an impenetrable tuxedo, and he's got a cheetah.
Made of paper.
Lovely. And we got to
Wow.
choose one more set.
One more set of black cards.
All right, so
Unbelievable. A cheetah made of paper.
all right, so I got my three. Matt's picking his. All right, here we go. This time, I'm gonna choose the very far left from me. Let's see how lucky I can be right
This
now.
better be unbelievable for being made out of paper.
I mean, I swear. This is a good one. This is a good one. Ready? Frost breath. I don't think it's gonna win with paper.
I don't think you're going to affect paper.
No, what I'm saying is I don't think you're gonna win because it's made out of paper. Unless you can top, if you could top that, please. I'd love to see. But right now, I'm kind of it's we'll see.
I'm going to pick this one.
All right, you pick
I'm going
that
to
one.
pick that one.
All right, let's see. He's like humming, 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 humming.
I'm going to be the card. I'm going to be the card.
Be the card. Oh,
Okay.
okay, so he's
I can dig this.
Okay, so what is it? Then?
It's definitely more of a defensive ability,
Okay,
and I think as a cheetah it makes sense.
okay,
But I can run 200 miles per hour, but only in a straight line.
okay. Only in a straight line. Okay, so I mean, this is an interesting one. I mean, it is a lot more random than the last one. So, all right, you know what, Matt? Since I won last week, I'm gonna be humble in this debate here. So I'm gonna let you go first. So you tell me why a cheetah that is made out of paper and can only run 200 miles an hour in a straight line. Why do you think it would win?
That's interesting because one,
Now, mind you, you have the crow wearing an impenetrable tuxedo and it has frost breath.
I mean, I already have a cheetah that runs fast.
Okay.
So I can already run faster than the crow can run.
I mean, yes, clearly, I understand he's a human, but yes.
And yes, you have an impenetrable tuxedo, but it doesn't say anything about the shoes. And I understand shoes come with a tuxedo.
Well, yes. So I mean, if you're thinking about a set, right?
But it also doesn't say anything about your head.
You're right. It doesn't say. But what does that have to do with you running fast and made out of paper?
Because the one thing that you have is you have frost breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm made out of paper. So I'm not a natural cheetah. We can agree to this, right?
I can agree that it's not a natural cheetah. But
I'm not a natural cheetah. So if you use your frost breath on me, I then become a much harder material.
true. But then let's think of it like this. So if I used my frost breath on you, okay, and you were to slow down, because I don't think it's going to go anywhere, and you're made out of paper. Yes, you are a harder substance, but I don't think that. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think a paper made out of cheetah who can only run in a straight line. So if I was to catch you and you were to slow down, I don't know how quick you're going to be at that point.
That's if you can catch me going 200 miles an hour. Because I can guarantee at 200 miles an hour, if I jump at your head's gone.
I guess it depends. Because if I know you're running in a straight line and I clearly see a line coming at me, you don't think I can't just move to the right or the left?
Not at 200 miles an hour.
No, but if I clearly see that there's a debris coming this way, you don't think I can't move real quick out of the way?
It's still possible, but I mean, my cheetah still runs really fast without being at 200 miles an hour.
So, but okay, ready? Watch this. Now, let me throw this out there. So, what if I knew you were coming and I just so happened to freeze the ground? Then what? You're gonna slide. You're not. You're gonna be slipping and sliding everywhere because it doesn't matter how fast you're going.
It depends on how much ground you're freezing, because I'm also a cheetah, so I do have reflexes like a cat.
True, but if it can only run 200 miles an hour in a straight line and it doesn't say anything about jumping,
But cheetahs can still run 30, 40 miles an hour. So I can still run really fast, and I have reflexes of a cat. So even if I slip, you're not going to freeze every single part of the ground around you.
depends on how powerful my frost breath is. So like that, it it's a very generalized statement. That's the problem because it's not because you're right. I'm not saying that a cheetah doesn't have those reflexes, but at the end of the day, I don't know exactly how well that's going to work for you. So even if I did, let's say if I made a circle around me, or even like a bigger circle around me, right? And I was to so happen to get out of the way, and you were to slip, and yes, I understand that cheetahs have reflexes. I'm just look. All I'm saying
You
is
still got to try to catch me.
right, but then I don't really have to catch you because again, let's say it also depends. Like the one thing that we didn't mention is that there is also a card that will allow you to choose locations because we haven't really chose a location because we can just make locations as we want. So I don't know. Let's say we were in a train yard. Okay, because right, because if you're running in a straight line, 200 miles an hour, and let's say we're on like a railroad track and train yard, whatever, right? It really depends on, let's say, if I froze the railroad tracks, right, and you were so happened to be running on them, then what?
I mean, sure, I'd slip, but 10 to 1, I probably wouldn't be coming at you from head on. Because as a cheetah, I'd be hunting you. I wouldn't be coming at you from head on, and you wouldn't be seeing me. I would be hunting you.
True, but again, you, what the one thing I'm trying to say is that even at 200 miles an hour, there's going to be some kind of debris, something that would let me know that something's coming my way.
If I was running that fast, what I'm saying is, you won't see me coming because I'm going to be hunting you.
And that's fine. You can use your natural instincts all you want.
And you being the crow doesn't matter.
No, I understand.
Like, you still don't have like the instincts that I have.
Right.
I can smell you coming. And
is,
you can use your stinky frost breath all you want.
oh, my
but
stinky. Okay.
I can still smell you. So even if
But your paper.
it doesn't matter what I'm made out of.
I don't know. Are we basing it off of it being that you're made out of paper, or are we basing it off of like natural instincts of a cheetah?
Well, I'm made out of paper.
Right. You're made out of paper, which we've already established.
Right. But even being made out of paper, I'm still a cheetah. So I'm still gonna hunt you like a cheetah would. I'm still going to be chasing you down and trying to get at you the same way a cheetah would.
See,
I'm not saying it's not going to be an uphill battle for just one single cheetah made out of paper.
because I right now I think we're trying to debate, and the problem is we keep bringing up the same things, and we're really I feel like we're almost at a stalemate because we're not agreeing that one is going to win over the other. I think in some regards that the cheetah might have more of an advantage because yes, if we're using the natural instincts because of that, sure, I could see that the cheetah could potentially kill me from my head or my feet if the shoes don't count as impenetrable. But right, and then I could flip it if I found a way to freeze the ground or whatever, right? And let's say again, I don't know, I freeze the ground, you start slipping and sliding, you can try to jump all you want, depending on how quick you might be. If let's say a train's coming And again, you're made out of paper. You're kind of there's not going to be much you can do. I mean, at that point, you're going to be rolled over. It's going to be all crushed up. And
Well, like I said, you really have to have a lot of breath in you to freeze that much of an area.
look, I understand I have to be like Iceman, basically, to be like freezing the ground around me. But again, if we're just basing it off of yes, my stinky frost breath, as you like to call it, you're right. It all depends on if I'm like Jack Frost and like, and blowing the whole ground with just ice alone, or if it's just like, it's like a mist coming out of my mouth. Like I don't.
I would assume that you would have semi-natural breathing patterns. I mean, you are the Crow, but you're not Superman. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
you're not just going to be able to breathe frost breath indefinitely.
no, right. I understand I can't breathe it indefinitely, but so again, how about we say this? I think right now we're both at a draw.
I think you're right. I mean, it is tough because like I think a natural cheetah, yes, like your frost breath could impact a cheetah in that way because it's going to have natural body processes like the heart and all of that stuff, muscles that are natural like you and I, where
Right.
if we get cold, we slow down.
Right.
But now you're talking something that's made of paper. All it's going to do is stiffen up and get harder. So if that cheetah that's made out of paper is already running that fast, even at 30, 40 miles an hour, it's already going to have those wrinkles in it. You know what I mean? It's already going to have like those movements. So it's only going to make it that much more stiffer.
Right.
And yeah, you might say like, yeah, it might slow down a little bit, but I'm also probably not going to come at you head first like a bear would or another animal. I'm going to sneak around you like a cat would.
Well, then you better not be going 200 miles an hour because then you at that point you'd be like zigzagging back and forth, and you probably wouldn't be going as 200 miles an hour at that
I
point.
think the only reason I would go 200 miles an hour would be to catch up to you because I'm running behind you.
Okay. See, and I can see that. Now, if you're just naturally, doing the 30, 40, actually, I want to say cheetahs actually are a lot faster than that. I think
They're
they're
probably a
like
lot faster
50,
than that.
60 or higher. So, yeah, realistically, I mean, if you were just using your natural, abilities as a cheetah, then yes, I would say that you're going to catch me at some point. And I mean, I don't think he's going to bite my head off because of it being a piece of paper. It'd be kind of weird if, it goes, wow, wow, wow. And then you're like, are you trying to bite
Well,
me
I
right
mean, I
now?
think I probably try to go for your legs or your arms, but once I think I realize that I can't bite into your
Right.
clothes,
Right.
I'm gonna go for something that I can bite, which would be your hands
Right. But
or your head.
so the thing is, though, is that if you're made of paper, how hard do you think you're going to bite me? Because even if you try to go for my head or my hands or my feet at that point, like I don't know how hard you're going to bite me. Because if you're paper, I don't think you're going to bite me that
It
hard.
doesn't say how thick the paper is,
Oh, see,
John.
so this is where, this is why I keep
See,
saying
this is
a
where
draw.
the game is really vague because it just says paper.
All right. So why don't we just agree that,
Technically, cardboard is paper.
I mean, yes. Okay. So why don't we come to an agreement? Are we saying that we're at a draw? Because I feel like
I think
kinda-
we're at a draw, but I think what we need is we need our listeners to get on to Facebook and let us know who they think might win this fight because this is a tricky one because yes, it says I'm made out of paper. And I think in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, if I'm made of notebook paper, I'm not even going to be able to run.
no.
But
No.
the game doesn't say the thickness of the paper.
True. So I think, like what Matt was saying, you guys need to let us know because him and I could debate this all night, and I don't want to stay up until like midnight tonight. So let's not do that. So let you guys go ahead, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, hell, go on our website and let us know. And
So, John, real quick,
okay, yep, go ahead.
I wanted to read some of the black cards that I could have gotten.
Okay, so you know
Because
what? Let's do that.
I actually looked at these previously,
Well,
and I definitely got the luck of the draw here. Because
well, wait, were those all yours?
these were mine.
Aren't you supposed to? Do you have 6?
I have 4.
Well, then that wouldn't make any sense.
No, 2 and 2. You have 4.
Well, then why do I have 6 in my hands?
Because you picked too many and you cheated.
I didn't cheat. Fine, I'll get rid of 2 that doesn't count. Anyways, go ahead.
So I don't know what order I got these in, but we picked 3 of each.
Right.
And we picked 1.
Right.
So 2 of them would have been armed with a portal gun.
Yeah.
Now, come on.
That's Rick and Morty right there.
I could have portaled you somewhere else.
Could have, but no.
The second one is throws fireballs. Come on. I mean, seriously.
No, so the best part is you say you get the luck of the draw, but clearly your luck didn't help you in this case.
Laser eyes.
Yep, that would have helped.
This would have helped last round, and it would have helped this round. And shoots bees from the mouth.
That's just gross.
But all of these would have been super helpful had I had them.
Okay, so ready? Watch this. So I has a skunk on a stick.
I don't know why that's helpful.
I don't know. The other one was armed with a barbed wire net. I mean, that could have been.
Okay.
That could have been.
I mean,
with
you
paper.
could have caught me.
It could have caught you, yeah.
And that would have ripped me to shreds.
Yeah, would have. Leeches opponent's health when touched. Oh, so like rogue. So it'd be like a rogue power. Okay. I like that. This was just funny. I saw this and I just cracked up. Clothes are way too tight.
Oh, so you're like one of those new generational guys.
Man, what are you trying to say? Because I'm actually quite confused on what you're trying to say right now.
I don't know the name for them.
Okay, well, hopefully let's not go there because I feel like that can go in so many different ways. But I'll say these the last 2, and then I know you got 2. So one I have is Killer Marionette.
Okay.
So that would have been an interesting one.
I've been like Jigsaw.
Yeah, basically Jigsaw. And then this one's just a weird one. Cult of Killer Druids.
Okay.
So definitely would have been interesting.
Okay. I had hockey player, which would have been better with, maybe not made out of paper, but
yeah, that's.
I also had a witch. But a hockey player that could go 200 miles an hour in a straight line, that would have been super helpful.
Well, that would have just killed me at that point. That one I would have been like, you won. But even the witch, though, I mean, if she was flying on a broom, yeah, I would have been done. It's like I would have been done.
All right, so that's round 2. I think we end on a draw on this one because I think it could go either way.
Yeah, and I think when we're basing it off of just the abilities and me being a human and him being an animal and things like that, it's really hard to really just get a good who's the clear winner, right? Because I mean, hopefully you guys can actually let us know because I'd be curious. Because if I'm King Geek of the Week twice in a row, I'm just going to say this, I will brag about it the entire time.
So I mean, us ending with a draw, obviously there's not going to be a Geek of the Week this week.
No, but guess what? Who's still the champ?
That would be you.
Okay,
that would be you. I mean, last week was a clear victory.
Okay, well, I'll say this. I'm glad Matt's really humble right now because if we were playing COD, that would not be the case right now. But I will not.
Well, like I said, I mean, this could have gone either way. I mean, the crow does have supernatural abilities, but
so
the cheetah is also a hunter by nature. So
yeah, I mean, and again, yeah, it's kind of a
you can't do much without a head.
Right, and again, having a psychic ability where you have kung fu. I mean, yeah, I don't have to touch the water, for example.
And to add to my debate, it never said how many cheetahs.
Okay, if it said cheetahs plural,
it just said cheetah, but it doesn't. It didn't necessarily say there was one. There could have been many. I don't know.
Well, then you'd have to look.
That could have been vague.
You could have looked up the plural version of a cheetah. And if it was cheetah, then I would have been like, well, then this is really controversial right now.
Hey,
if it was just...
We'll let our Facebook people decide, and hopefully they'll tell us who won.
And maybe those less than 1% Islanders. I mean, is that how you say it? No, I'm just kidding. No, the Irish folks over there.
The Irish folks, the less than 1%.
It's the less than 1%. Maybe you guys can let us know, too. I'd be curious. But let's get into phase two, Matt, because I think we need to let our listeners know about this.
Phase two. Yeah. All right. So, like we did in phase one, if you didn't listen to part one, you guys can stop right now and go back to part one, listen to our part one summary, and then come back to this episode because now I'm going to do the kind of generic phase two summary, and it's going to go per movie, kind of per characters.
Actually, before you go, Matt, if you haven't listened to episode 6, actually no, we're on. Oh, this is episode 7. My bad. If you haven't listened to the latest one that we'll be dropping, I will say this: go back to the first one and actually catch up because I think you'll get a real sense of what we actually talk about here. But I will also be giving commentary. So once Matt's done his, I'll just kind of jump in and we'll fill in the blanks.
All right, so phase two, we return to Tony Stark, who is briefly traumatized and steps back from the action, only to be drawn back into it by another tech industry figure who makes people explode, kidnaps his girlfriend, boss, Pepper Potts, and kidnaps the President of the United States. And oh, yeah, there's also a faux villain who's really an actor named Trevor.
So if I'm not mistaken, in Iron Man 3, is it Justin Hammer, right? That's the main kind of villain in this one. He's like the like you were just saying about the industrialist, has the weapons industry as well as like Tony Stark.
No, I think that was two.
Was it 2? Okay. Then my bad.
Three is I don't know what his name is, but it was the guy that Tony knew in his past.
Well, that's not really helpful right now. Anyways, so I will say that with this third one, from the more defining moments was, Tony actually. I'm not saying that in the first two that he didn't actually like develop his character, but this one, it kind of reminded him of why he started this because I know in this one, he actually meets a little kid, and
Right.
that. Well, I'm not going to go too far, but that little kid's actually somewhat important down the road in one of the movies. But in this movie itself, it actually really defines Tony, and it actually reminds him of who he is and why he's doing what he's doing. And so I know I want to say was it this one or the second one where he was fighting the different versions of the Iron Man suits. Like it was multiple of them, and I know War Machine was helping him fight, off these like
That was three.
was it 3? Okay,
Yeah.
so I was right. Okay.
Because he basically has kind of he uses the creativeness of himself
Right.
to basically build suits. And you kind of like, okay, well, he's built a couple maybe. And
Oh.
then, you have this kind of epic scene where, the president is hanging up on these cranes and, Tony's wearing his, suit, trying to get his suit. And he calls all these other, autonomous suits.
Right.
And there's just one after another, and they're all radically different.
Right. And I know that they were all hacked because even though he calls them, I remember like he's trying to call his one main suit that he's been doing because he's on like Mark, I don't know if it was like 20 or something like that. He made a lot of suits in a very short amount of time. And yeah, in that one scene alone, I mean, he's fighting off like easily 10 to 20 suits. I can't remember exactly how many, but there was so many that he actually had to call his buddy War Machine to come and help him because there was that many, suits flying around trying to like, terrorize the people around them and everything else. But, with the third one, you know, I'm not saying that it's not a more memorable, movie out of the MCU, but it if you really want to know more about like Iron Man itself, like, watch the first two and then really watch this one because it does help him bring him into that leadership aspect. There we go. Sorry. Into that role because, it really does help later on with the Avengers itself because technically in the third Iron Man, this is after the Avengers. So this is already when they've already formed everything. But so this is like a little, I guess, spin-off of like what he's been doing after, the events of New York. So again, Iron Man, he's okay in my book.
Hmm. All right, so we go from Iron Man we go back to Thor, and Thor has some trouble with a red power stone and some dark elves. The main villain, who I gotta admit is kind of weird looking, needs the power within this red power stone. However, Jane Foster, who is Thor's girlfriend on Earth, accidentally gets the power of the red stone absorbed within her, and Thor must now save her and the Nine Realms from destruction.
So the red, is it really a red stone?
It's a red stone. It's the Aether.
Yeah,
Ether.
right, the ether. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that one, it basically it corrupts people. Like that's kind of what I'm trying to remember what the actual stone does off the top of my head, the ether, but it's the redstone is, I think is it power?
I think it's power.
Yeah, so I think what it does is it drives that one's power. So whether you're good or evil in that sense, like if you're evil, it's gonna make you more corrupt than you are. But it makes you 10 times stronger than what you are too. So that what he was saying, the main villain of Thor, yes, I can't remember that elf, like the dark elf, the one of the leader of them. Like, but he is weird looking. He is
Yeah.
kind of
So he's
different.
weird looking, and he basically, the Nine Realms is basically like it's Earth. It's a lot of different planets.
Right. So you
Which
got
is
like
their nine realms.
right. So you got like, I'm trying to think like Vanaheim and Asgard. So if you're like thinking of Norse mythology,
Right.
you have to think of like, Helheim and, you know, Niflheim, and there's so many Heims in the the
Yeah.
realms here. But
So this dark elf is basically trying to get the power within the stone, and he wants to destroy all of the nine realms so that he can recreate them basically in his own image.
so that it's sad, but that's like the Holocaust, like or just basically what Hitler was trying to do. Like so, literally that, and I hate saying it like that, but that's like almost as close as what you could think of, like in that movie, what he was trying to do. But Thor, from the first movie, like he's already, worthy of Mjolnir, right? So he's already like established, like yes, he's worthy, he's good to go in Odin's eyes. But because this is going on, you know, he needs to make sure that, of course, all the nine realms are in check and everything else. But of course, his brother Loki. I mean, this dude. I mean, every time he sees him,
Every
he
time he
always
turns around, he's always doing something.
I mean, and
Yeah.
and it's sad because like now, granted, I understand like in like mythology, Loki is not actually his brother. Like it's clear as day.
Right.
Like we understand he's a giant. Like he's some sort of a giant. Actually, I think he's a frost giant.
He's a frost giant. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you look at Loki, I mean, clearly when you look at him for the first time, he does not look anything like a giant. I mean, it's kind of a weird, different style of him. But anyways, Thor in this movie, from what I can remember, is you know basically playing the heroic part. Like he's saving his girlfriend, so basically damsel in distress. Doing the heroic thing. But I believe that Jane Foster, like what you were saying, like she does get possessed from the stone, and it like she goes ape shit. Sorry, excuse my language, but like she gets out of control, and like he needs to be like, okay, hey, you need to like get back to reality. Like this isn't you, kind
Yeah.
of a thing.
And they return back to Asgard, which leads to more of a tragic event with his mother.
Yes, and unfortunately, who do you think did that?
Oh, I know who did that.
Well, who did it?
It was, I believe, and I'm not 100%, but I believe his name was Malakath.
Oh, well, I mean, I would say that Loki had some, part of the, you know, piece of it.
Well,
like,
I mean, it was really the Dark Elves who went to Asgard to get the red,
no,
to get the, to get the ether to,
right,
because they knew that she had it and she was in Asgard.
right. But the issue is that Loki because his mischievous ways, he makes a deal with them. And that's what he always loves to do. He always likes to make deals, and he always,
Well, he was in the prison
right, but
at the time.
true. But what does he always try to do? He always tries to wiggle himself out of any situation that he's in.
Which was at the end of the movie.
Yes.
And we're not going to reveal that.
No, 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 no.
You'd have to go back and watch it. And if you haven't seen it, you'll have to watch it to find out. But he does do some trickery at the end. But we'll move on. So the next one, we find Steve Rogers, a.k.a. Captain America.
My boy.
He's still trying to adjust to the modern world. He's now living in D.C. when a Shield colleague comes under attack, and he gets caught up in a big conspiracy that threatens the world and puts it at risk. Shocker. I know.
Oh, did you have something else?
I do.
Okay,
Captain America struggles to expose. Oh, I read that right. He's basically is trying to expose this big conspiracy while fighting off professional assassins sent to silence him. And he's then forced to turn against his own corrupt government when his old pal Bucky turns up as a brainwashed super soldier.
So I'm going to mention this, and you can agree with me, man, or not, but my brother always loves to have this debate with me. So he says that Bucky Barnes, okay, because we're going to say it. So Bucky Barnes is now the Winter Soldier, okay? So from watching the first movie to now, basically Hydra finds his body, and turns him into the Winter Soldier. So basically resurrects him and brainwashes him to be the ultimate assassin.
Right.
Okay. But the issue was in this movie, because the big part of it was the whole Bucky Barnes Winter Soldier thing, was Steve Rogers was trying to, yes, help his old buddy, but at the same time, because he's committed so many atrocities and so many like killings of people and everything, that my brother always loves to say he's harboring a fugitive. Because at some point, yes, later on down the road, he does like help him, get him out of his ways and, helps him to realize who he is. But he always says that to me. And I'm like, you know what? Here's the thing. If you're brainwashed, how do you know what's right from wrong? Okay. Because at the end of the day, like if you don't know what you're doing, then how are you like, accountable, really? And I mean, you could have that debate. And if you guys, want to take a look at that, by all means, because I've had this debate and it drives me nuts. But anyways, with Steve Rogers in this movie, it for him it's a very conflicting time, right? So again, going back to the first movie, he, realizing that Bucky, again, at the time he thought he was dead, and then all of a sudden he sees him again. So that's kind of a kind of like PTSD effect, and he's like, oh crap, what do I do now? And how do I adjust to the situation? And realizing that, I'm not going to try to spoil too much, but Hydra, unfortunately, I believe it's in this one that basically they've been living in plain sight, right? So they've been living in plain sight. They have no idea what was really going on until Arnim Zola, or Arnim Zoloff, sorry. He was the one that has been alive for years. Like he's been hiding. And basically he explains that to actually, yeah, both Cap and Black Widow, that they've been living among Shield this entire time. So, and I won't try to spoil it too much, but if you do watch Agents of Shield, great TV show, that actually kind of ironically goes into that particular movie, and it actually does help with the transition of things. But realizing that he can't even trust the Shield agents
Right.
and the
Shield
government,
or the government.
right? And so
Right.
it actually goes against his own beliefs, because again, when he was fighting in World War II, like these were his friends, these were his buddies and everything else. Now he's like, well, what? I can't even stand up for what I believe in because I don't know who to trust. And so that's why it's the biggest controversy for him at that moment, because at that moment too, actually, now I'm thinking about it, Nick Fury, right? The whole, director of Shield, he basically has to disband it and basically at some point actually creates a new version of Shield, which that's much, much later. But It's crazy though because when you watch it, it's a really good, movie in itself. I think it, out of majority of the like first kind of phases, it's definitely easily I would say in the top 10. Like it's a good one to watch so that way you can kind of get a good story from, Cap's perspective and understanding how Hydra really does kind of come into play moving forward. But again, hopefully maybe at one point you guys can let me know if Steve Rogers was really harboring a fugitive, a fugitive, because I disagree with my brother. But let me know.
All right, space adventurer Peter Quill finds himself the object of a bounty hunt after stealing a mysterious orb coveted by a blue alien warrior who, of course, has ambitions that threaten the entire universe. Again, shocker. Quill is forced into an uneasy truce with some galaxy misfits. Rocket, a gun toting talking raccoon. Groot, a tree looking humanoid that only says, I am Groot.
No, I am Groot.
The revenge driven Drax the Destroyer, and the deadly assassin Gamora.
So, with Guardians of the Galaxy, this is the first time, of course, that they show up, and I know in the comics they really do become a big part of the whole Marvel universe as itself. But when you look at Star Lord, okay, you know, it does. I don't know if they really go over like certain pieces of like his, you know, I don't even know how to say it, but like DNA, right? So like, unfortunately, I'm not gonna try to like go into it too far, but like he realizes he's not just human, okay? Because he realizes there's much more to him, and that's what he's trying to figure out at some point. But when he meets Rocket Raccoon, when he meets Groot, Drax the Destroyer, Gamora, and ironically, good old Star Lord and Gamora, they eventually, they start, dating a little bit. They kind of have a little love interest, which is it's just a nice thing, and they kind of do that throughout the movies you'll see. Um, and Rocket and Groot, man, like Groot, he cracks me up. Like, and I understand he just says, "I am Groot," and he says that the entire time. But it's so unfortunately sad when he has to sacrifice himself to save everyone else around him.
Yeah.
And you know, and no, I'm not going to try to spoil it, but no, he's not dead. Okay, he just
And I do understand the sacrifice. When you watch the movie, like, he's doing it to save his friend. And I'm gonna say this, and this is probably gonna be an unpopular opinion, but take it or leave it. But I actually like the adult Groot much better than I do the baby or the teen or whatever the other Groots that we've seen.
so
I actually like the adult version of Groot much better.
so you just made a lot of people upset,
I'm sure I did.
and including our 45 listeners and 1% of
I'm,
viral.
I'm sure I did. But I do like the adult version. And what's funny is, and John, I don't know if you saw the holiday special,
Oh, I did.
but I don't know what the heck was wrong with Groot in that special, but he looked like a dude in a suit. So
So
he was bulky, and it was really weird.
So what's weird about it is like because that was his version. It's like a teenage version. That's where where he's at now. He's not even at the adult version. He's at like the mid.
It was
like,
just
angst.
really weird looking.
Well, it was like teenage angst. Like that was what he was doing because I remember him playing like a little handheld like Game Boy or something.
Right.
And he was just like
It just was different from like the rest of the movies because like he was kind of like still thin, still narrow, and then in this one it looked like too many Twinkies. Like I don't know, like I don't know what the issue is,
Twinkies.
but yes, I always liked the adult version myself. Is the baby Groot that you see dancing in the little pot? Yeah, it's cute. The other versions, they're okay. So
so
like you have like those versions and like you know him sitting in that ship in some of the other Guardian movies, and he's like, I am Groot, and they're like, watch your mouth. Like
So
he doesn't do anything in those
no,
movies.
no, I agree. So the one thing at least we can probably agree on that yes, the adult version is probably the more. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough of him.
Right.
Right. So we wish we could have seen him more, but at least we understand that yes, Baby Groot is cute. We understand that lovable piece of it. But yes, teenage Groot. I don't know what's going on with him. He's just it's like teenage angst, like I've said, and it's this weird style
Yeah.
of him that I don't understand
His
personally.
biggest contribution is the handle of Thor's, Stormbreaker handle.
I mean, that's true. I mean, well, again, we don't want to go too far, but yes, that is
Yes.
true. But I will say this kind of to wrap it up, but like Drax, some of his humor is funny, man. Like some of the dry humor that he does.
And yeah, and I do like that because when you actually look into it, a lot of the autism people, and
So
I'm
you
not
mean
saying like,
so
not
autistic?
autistic people in general, but people that are, like family members or parents or supporters of autistic people
Yeah,
in general really connect with Drax
yeah.
because the way that he acts and the way that he interacts with people, um, the not understanding certain jokes and the not understanding like the way people talk with slang.
Well, I mean it.
That's where people like connect with because they're like, oh, my son or my daughter or this person does that and they're autistic.
So what's also funny about that too is like you'll meet another character later on, but Mantis, like when she and him like go at it with each other with the
Yeah,
banter, it really helps kind of give that lovable kind of funny moments with both of them, and
yeah.
that's why listening to both of them do that, especially like I think it was on the holiday special when they like in the very beginning like that to me was funny, and they go to Earth for the first time, and it was something else. But anyways.
It's a funny, and it's funny because like there's a moment in this movie where they're like, oh, it's gonna go over your head,
They're
or
like, yeah,
some
yeah.
comment like that, and he's like, nothing goes over my head. I'll catch it before,
Yeah, and you're like, "Wait, wait, what?"
and you're like, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
But the only thing I will mention though real quick is Rocket, right? So, in this movie, I don't even know how to like all he wants to do is blow things up. Like he doesn't care. He just like, "You know what? I'm just going to take on the biggest guy I can and
Right.
I'm just going to beat the crap out of him."
He wants to blow things up, and if you have any sort of tech, he wants to steal it, even if it's like your leg, your arm, or your eyeball.
And he does all that. Actually, believe it or not, he actually steals people's stuff and it's like, "Well, okay, well now we know
I
we
think he
got
actually did steal somebody's
eyeball."
leg or arm.
I thought it was an eyeball.
Well,
I
he did that too.
Yeah, but you're probably right. It was probably either a leg or an arm, and I think he actually uses it to beat people up with. I think that's actually what happens. But
All right, so before I get into the Avengers, the one little comment I have is the Guardians have nothing to do with the Avengers
that is true.
yet.
Right. That's not that's not until way later at that point.
So we get Tony and we get Bruce Banner. They attempt to secretly create an AI in order to, and I'm doing air quotes here, save the world. And they use the power within Loki's scepter from the first Avengers, right?
Right.
So what ends up happening though is Tony has these autonomous suits that he basically can send out and can assist them if they go out and they're fighting something. He
Right.
can send these suits out and then they come back, and he has this whole automated process where he can fix them and he can repair them and basically do that. So this movie, the Avenger movie, Age of Ultron, starts with them in this fight. And when they return, there's a bunch of suits that, a bunch of these, autonomous Iron Man suits are damaged. So they all come back in. They're all sitting down, kind of
Well,
laughing it up.
well, not the suits, but you mean the
The,
Avengers?
yeah,
Yeah.
the Avengers, like they're kind of all like sitting around. You know, they're all trying to like see who can actually lift the Mjolnir.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but what was secretly happening before that was, Tony and Bruce were trying to use the power within Loki's scepter to create this AI, and it kept failing, it kept failing, it kept failing, and they basically set their algorithm to just keep running over and over and over and over to keep trying the experiment over and over and over. So while they were all having fun talking and doing whatever they were doing, one of those experiments actually passed.
Right. And I know that Jarvis, it's his AI assistant, was talking with what is going to be known as Ultron. Those two talk in this, like, I don't know, cyber
Cyber,
world, I guess, what
right?
do you want to call it? And Ultron's like, so he's like saying like humans need to be destroyed, this and that, blah blah blah. Like
Because Ultron's looking into the internet. He gets into the internet. He's seeing all of these videos of
destruction.
destruction and wars and people killing each other.
And Jarvis is the opposite, where he's saying, hey, we understand that humans are not perfect, and we understand that yes, there are, things that we do, as humans, like war and
yeah,
genocide and of that nature. But like he was saying, there is hope for the humanity of people, and so I was gonna actually,
I do have more, and
oh,
I didn't finish because we went on this little
okay,
tangent. But
go ahead.
ultimately, Ultron ends up going into one of these Iron Man suits and becomes cyber conscious. And so the Avengers ultimately team up again to take down Ultron. But once again, Tony and Bruce attempt to create a new ally. And so Ultron ultimately in this movie is trying to create a vibranium body for himself.
Which is at the time the most strongest metal on the planet.
Right. And the Avengers get the vibranium body. And then they get this brilliant idea of, hey, we can merge Jarvis with this body and he can help us fight Ultron.
Which is now known as Vision in this case.
Right. But, at the time it was like, really, you guys are going to do this again? So they end up creating what we now know as Vision. And together with Vision, the Avengers go to Sokovia and basically wreck the place.
So there's a lot, and I'm going to try to keep this brief as I can. So, first off, in the comics, I know for a fact, this is where the MCU changed this. So, in the comics, it's actually Tony Stark and Hank Pym who actually create
Yes.
Ultron, and it's not Bruce Banner. So, Hank Pym, granted, we're going to be mentioning him in actually the next little segment here. But anyways, like they actually create him and not, Tony Stark and, Bruce Banner. But anyways, the other big thing is there's two actually superheroes at the time that actually come into play as well, which is actually something I can't remember which Easter egg was it that actually brought these two characters to life. Was it in Winter Soldier or was it in one of the other movies? I can't remember off the top of my
I don't
head.
remember.
But anyways, so it's the Scarlet Witch, and you have Quicksilver. Okay, now in the comics, granted they are I guess the son and daughter of Magneto.
Right.
So, granted, at this time we don't have the X-Men. We don't have the universe that is eventually, well, praying here or hoping.
Yeah. And I think that they were actually created, which is what kind of the explanation was. They were created,
Right. They were
not really born from a person.
right. And so I know with Quicksilver, so like give a little back, right? So a little backstory. So Quicksilver, again, it's like the Flash, right? One of the fastest human beings alive. Okay. Scarlet Witch is probably one of the most powerful, magical sorceress, supreme. I mean, eventually you'll see what I'm talking about later
Right.
on, but she's very powerful. She doesn't even know it yet. In this
Yeah.
movie, she's like bare minimum, but later on, oh my God, like
And
it's bad.
I'll just say it. I mean, obviously, yes, this Avengers was still pretty good for what it was.
Well, there was a
But
lot going on. That's the thing.
there was a lot going on, and it does push this movie is really just it pushes the whole saga forward,
Oh,
because
tremendously.
the events from this movie
Affect future things.
affects pretty much the other phases, moving forward. But Quicksilver really got the raw end of the deal here.
Yes, because unfortunately he was killed.
He was introduced in this movie and then killed in this movie.
And the problem is like unfortunately I wish we could have saw like more of him. And
Yes.
the whole thing is like Scarlet Witch actually got her true powers because of his death, which is the sad part. But honestly, it does help the story.
It
kinda move
helps the
forward.
story, but again, like you can't really have another Quicksilver after this.
Huh. Or can you?
We'll get into the multiverse thing,
Yeah, that's true.
once we hit those phases.
So the only other thing I will mention that is a big part of this movie, and it actually affects a lot of the movies, especially moving forward, is the Soviet Accords. Because of that one event, because of that whole destruction of what the
Right,
Avengers
because
have
of what
done,
happened in this movie, what happened to Sokovia,
it
that's what drives the narrative of
like Civil War that comes out, like
right.
everything else that moves forward, that literally drives the MCU. And so, we can go on about this movie, but honestly, when you see it, I guarantee you it will make a lot more sense. And all these characters, they really drive the story. And I mean, it's actually now I'm thinking about it. That's actually the last time you also see Bruce Banner for a bit.
For a bit, yeah, because he takes off after that.
We'll get into that
We'll
later.
get into that. So the last one I have, and this is going to be kind of a quick one, and I do have a thought about this movie, even though I do enjoy this movie. Um, we also meet petty criminal Scott Lang, who inherits shrinking technology and learns to talk to ants and becomes Ant Man. And I will say that my one thought about this movie is, yes, I do like Paul Rudd. Like I
No,
he,
don't get me wrong.
he's a good actor.
Yes.
But what I would have preferred to see
Oh, okay. Who's your choice?
is Hank Pym.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I would have preferred to actually see like him be more involved than some old fogey who becomes a mentor.
Well, that was Michael Douglas who played
I understand who played him, but he really didn't have a part other than being like
the mentor.
the grumpy mentor.
I get what you're saying, but I think also, and unfortunately with the MCU now, right? Because think about all the new superheroes we have, right? Because Scott Lang, I guess if you want to say, is the second version of the original Ant-Man, which I guess would be kind of newer comics, but not really. But like, that's kind of what the MCU was trying to do is like not because I would have loved to seen the original like Hank Pym, like, hey, let's actually see him in action. But and even some of the other movies later on, like he kind of it does kind of bring
He
that
just
original back. But
within Marvel, I think you look at Hank Pym, and he and Tony Stark and a lot of other of these stories, Hank Pym was so much involved with a lot of them.
I mean, so you think about it: Tony Stark, Hank Pym, Reed Richards,
Right.
Bruce Banner, like like those four alone, literally drove.
All of these really smart guys.
They drove a lot of the inventions and a lot of the really the development of like the MCU because not going to mention it as much, but like even two of them were a part of the Illuminati.
But then, you only meet him in this movie, which is Phase 2.
True.
And you don't get that whole backstory.
No,
You
you're
just
right.
kind of get him like, yeah, he was Ant-Man. You get this from the story from the past.
Right. Right.
Now he's kind of this grumpy guy who, still looking for his wife, doesn't know where his wife is.
And that's a different story.
And that's kind of all you have.
Which, well, so here's the thing that I do like about Scott Lang, right? So, I mean, yes, he is a petty criminal. He, is trying to redeem himself in some ways. But the one thing about this movie that really I think a lot of people can agree is that it's very humor. It's really humor based because that's
Yes.
kind of it's the comedy relief, and I think I don't. I'm
This
trying
one
to.
also didn't have anything to do with the Avengers.
No, it didn't. No, it was a separate story. And what's
Right.
funny is that you meet, was it Jane Van Dyne, or is that her
Yeah.
name? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the daughter of Hank Pym, and it's nice to see how well, you'll see later on, Ant Man and Wasp is really the combination between the two. But the one thing I thought was interesting is that they brought in Yellow Jacket, right? So originally with Hank Pym, he does become Yellow Jacket at some point, which is basically his like criminal ego. I don't know, like alter ego kind of a thing. And what's interesting is like so Hank Pym and even just like Scott Lang, right? They have the same abilities where they can shrink and they can grow, 200 plus feet tall, right? So it allows them to kind of be whatever they need to be in that situation, which is nice because when he's fighting, a lot of times he's just this small little guy, and he's like punching these guys that he's like like little itty bitty little thing, and then he just like punches the crap out of them, and they're flying, and they're like, well, how did I just get punched? And they don't even know what it is or who's coming
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah.
But in this movie, we start to realize that Ant Man. You may not think of it now, even though he is the comedy relief. He does become an important player, especially down the road. It may not seem like it right now, but he does, and I mean, he does, redeem certain things.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying, like, I would have preferred to see like more of a younger Hank Pym, more of seeing what he could have helped with as far as like, seeing him in that Avengers Age of Ultron,
right,
seeing him actually creating and not being at Bruce Banner.
no, I agree. I mean, I agree that if we were to go back to the comics, then yes, I would have loved to seen that piece. But I know that the MCU is going to do whatever the heck they want. You know.
So yeah, I mean, I think phase two really brought into, and we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon here, but I think for phase one that really kind of introduced some of these characters,
Right.
kind of brought you to who they are. Phase two really started telling us the story of where the Infinity Stones and some of the power that's out there.
Right, and I know that the other thing too is that it does also bring in like other important members or even characters in the story for future references. So like Ant Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, those kinds of people. Because right now you don't know anything about them. You just kind of get the backstory, and that's kind of what the MCU does. Is like they'll introduce people. They'll only give you like a part of a story,
Right.
and then they will introduce them in a bigger feature. Like I'm not going to mention it, but the very last movie in the Infinity Saga. But anyways, I agree that in Phase Two, it really helped define the story. It does push the saga, right, and it helps kind of drive the story a little bit more. It also motivates everyone else to hopefully become the actual Avengers that we are going to finally meet
Yeah.
at some point, and including I know Thanos at the time, like so in phase one, yes, you get to see Thanos a little bit. You occasionally, it's very rare that I think you saw him in phase two.
You hear like I think you hear references of him, and I think Guardians
Yes.
you do see him interacting, but like a lot of phase two is like you see the Infinity Stones, you know that there's an importance of it because you know it's in there are parts of it in Age of Ultron with 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 the Mind Stone that's in Vision.
Right, the
You
Power
have it
Stone.
in Thor. You have it in so multiple movies. There's these Power Stones,
Right, and
and you kind of don't know what the impact is. And the very next episode that we do, so episode 8, when we get into phase 3, that's really kind of where we're going to start getting into. You'll see more of these.
right, and the one thing I will, it's like an honorable mention. So the one thing I found interesting about Guardians too, and especially in the very end of the movie, was like when they brought in Cosmo the dog, and then Howard the Duck, right? Two totally random Marvel kind of characters. Howard the Duck, though, I think for years I've been waiting to see. if they would ever like introduce him into something bigger, because he was kind of a weird character, but he actually wasn't really as important, but he definitely did give you a lot of comic relief, and it also he actually knows a lot of superheroes, like even through the comics. So like of course Guardians. I'm pretty sure like I don't know if he like teams up with the Avengers. Like he does all these kind of
Yeah.
weird things, but I'm just hoping that maybe at some point they'll introduce him again. But all
All
right,
right.
Matt, I think this is it.
I think that's it. One thing before we kind of do our kind of outro pieces, I did want to read off the movies that were in this phase since we didn't
Yes, you're
do
right. We
that
didn't
earlier.
really do that.
So the phase 2 movies were Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man.
Again, if you get a chance at some point, and I'll probably just remind people of this too, watch it. You don't necessarily need to watch it in each phase, like watch each movie in each phase. Actually, watch it in chronological, like what it's supposed to be. Personally, I think that will give you a better story.
Yeah, I think Disney Plus you can actually watch them in order because I think they put them automatically in the order.
Yeah, and I think personally, if you're just starting to watch that, like honestly, and no, we're just kind of going through only the first two phases, but once hopefully we're done with this series, literally check it out. Like go through the chronological. It's gonna be good, but also, again, it's also gonna take you like a few days to be
Yeah,
able to watch all
yeah.
of them.
All right, so obviously, if you guys are enjoying our episodes, follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys are listening to us. Follow, like, share, subscribe, whatever you do on all the different podcasts, because each podcast is different, right? So, like, share, subscribe. Like, we do appreciate you hitting that share button. Share it, tag a couple friends. Hashtag Geeks from the Multiverse or
Stay geeky.
Stay Geeky or GFTM23, like whatever. Like we do appreciate you guys sharing us out. Each episode is going to have links where you can find us. So you'll have our LinkedIn, which is brand new, our Instagram, our Facebook, our website, our main podcast site. So if you guys need to reach out to us on Facebook. Like we'd love to hear from you.
I was gonna say Debbie is the one thing.
I'm getting there. I'm getting
okay,
there.
my bad, my bad.
There.
I'm gonna step back now. Go ahead.
I'm getting there. Just telling people about the links. You can go to our website. Our website has, our latest episode will be on the homepage all the time. So whenever we post a new episode, which will be on Mondays
At 8 o'clock.
So 8 a.m. If you go to our website, the latest episode will be there. You can always go to Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts; they'll always be there. But we do have a chat us up form on our website where you can send us a message.
Hopefully nothing rude. Okay.
Yeah, let's be adults here. Send us a real message with a real email so that we can respond to you.
Because again, we still have that challenge out there, right? So we want you guys to actually like tell us some ideas. Now, I understand that there are some people out there that have actually come up to me in real life and told me about ideas. I think that's great, and I love the commentary we have. But seriously, if you message us on Facebook, Instagram, our website, whatever it is, just again, if we both can see it, then at least now we know like what we can talk about. Because if you tell me, I'm gonna forget in 2 seconds. I'm not gonna lie, I have a terrible memory. So again, that challenge and then the other challenge is again, like what Matt was saying about sharing and following, like please go to that random stranger, in that Walmart parking lot or, wherever you go. I mean, Market Basket or just your friendly neighborhood, guy who's walking his dog down the road. Like, be like, hey, man, do you know anything about geek culture? Hey, listen to this podcast. Like, seriously, share it because not that we don't appreciate the 1% of Ireland that's listening to us. We appreciate that, but we want you guys to also maybe go to the UK and start letting them know about it too. Okay, but I think Matt, I think we're good. And
So, couple things
oh, okay,
because
my
I
bad,
didn't
my
mention the
bad.
Dubby, but we do have a few things in the works. I'm not gonna say anything right now, but we do have a couple things in the works. But we did partner with Dubby Energy, and if you don't know what Dubby Energy is, it's an energy drink company that makes powdered energy, and you can go to their website, and we have a coupon code that if you enter GFTM23, you will get 10% off any order. And on their website, they actually do have a sampler pack that I believe is like $15.
That's
So
actually not bad.
you get a shaker bottle, and I believe you get 2 sampler packs. So you can get 10% off. I literally just ordered a tub today.
So the only question I have though is like zero sugar?
0 sugar, no calories.
Okay.
It's made for focus and energy. So perfect for gamers or, yes, if you're playing sports and stuff like that, but it's a really good product, and their peach flavor is really good. So, like I said before, our website has a link to Dubby, and every episode will have a link to Dubby, and you can put in our coupon code, which will be listed in the description as well. So you guys can go check that out. And now I think we're done, John.
Okay, I'm glad we're now done.
Stay geeky.